Well, Bigme did it. They made an e-reader. Coming from a company that has never so much as even entertained the idea, they release a 6-inch, something a lot of companies don't even want to make anymore. This is the Bigme Read. It has audio, it has an SD card, USB-C, multiple speed modes, and comes default with Google Play out of the box. Flush screen and bezel carries you through having a good overall appearance and form factor, but is it any good? There's only one way to find out. I'll tell you, Bigme has come a long way. They have come a very long way in the past couple years. They started off back in 08, but pretty much as a no-name company, and now they're absolutely killing it with literally everything under their belt, and I guess an e-reader now too, which is amazing. How heavy is this? It is 172 grams heavy, so a Kindle Paperwhite for reference is about 210, 200, call it, so this is on the lighter side of devices. Let's look at the build. The back is nothing amazing at all. In fact, it's completely plain. It leaves tons of fingerprints, and we alcohol our fingertips before every shoot, but you can see there's just tons of fingerprints because there's no texture at the back. It's just pure plastic, and they don't even put a logo, they just put a sticker. There's nothing on any of the sides. On the bottom you have a speaker, you have a hard reset button, you have an SD card slot, as well as a USB-C as status indicator light, and at the top you have a power button. It is flush screen and bezel with that kind of asymmetrical ledger style, although you're never really going to be using this landscape because there's no reason to. There's no buttons or anything like that. There's nothing to ergonomically take advantage of in landscape. The UI is different because usually you have everything on the side because all we've been faced with is e-notes, but this is not an e-note. Finally, it's not. And no, there's not going to be any pen support. That's not what's happening here. This is a completely wide departure from what they usually have. And yes, it's all in English. So we have the settings section, which has various amount of settings. You do have key custom as well. So when you go into key custom, what this allows you to do is when you tap, it'll return to the last page, page up, page down, etc. So you can actually utilize this bottom button and key map it. So for example, if I want to use it to return to the home page, I can do that. But if I wanted to use it as return to the last page, I can long press. I'm a little bit sad they didn't do a double tap, but that would just get a little bit convoluted. Back to the home screen, you have everything on the bottom now. So you have shelf, book, mail, storage, app, and settings. Yes, app is actual apps. And yes, there's Google Play. There's absolutely no problem with Google Play. We've tested it. We've signed in. You'll see my little face on the top corner. This is my account logged into Google Play, and it works flawlessly. You might see that everything's kind of slow right now. What you can actually do is get away from IMG 256 and HD mode and move over to extreme mode. When you do that, everything gets much faster. You can go browse ebooks, you can go browse apps or games, everything you want. This device is, again, huge departure away from specs as well, because it's not very quick. Bigme is known for having fast refresh, high processing speeds, and crazy specs. This one is very uncharacteristic of Bigme in that regard. It's not very fast at all. It's a little bit on the laggy side, and it's quite unresponsive, but it's not meant to be a mega giant because this is an ebook reader. It doesn't have note-taking, it doesn't have 8 gigs of RAM like a Hisense A9 Pro. That's not what it's about here. This is about reading, and we're going to test exactly that. First, let's look at the actual screen quality. It is beautiful, it is matte because of the flush screen and bezel cover. There's absolutely no problem with the overall look of anything at any given angle. The page turns are going to be either good or bad depending on what you're using. For example, you see we have Google Books here, so we have a page animation. This can obviously be mitigated by clicking the top right here, going into a faster mode, something like extreme, getting away from IMG 256, and then you're able to get a little bit more fluidity, and you can actually play with that peak, but even then it's not that quick. You know what this is? Because we're so used to something so speedy from Bigme that it feels like they fell short because it's not as fast. But that's not what we're seeing. This is very evident of low quality, low end ebook readers that is supposed to be about reading books. Now, yes, you are correct. They do have Google Play and you can install APKs, so they're not quite as basic as we would make out to believe. So we kind of would like it to be a lot faster, to be in more of that Poke 5 category rather than a Pocketbook Touch HD 3, which is just about reading, because technically this does have audio. You should be able to do other things with it, but it does seem that it's a little bit hindered by the overall speed. But we won't know until we figure out a few more things like web browsing and videos. So let me just walk around our website here at goodereader.com and see what everything is looking like. So I'm going to scroll around a little bit. Everything's kind of trudging along. We do have, there's the Bigme Read right there. We do have extreme mode currently on. So this is going to help us a little bit. It does seem to be a little bit choppy, and it refreshes quite a bit, even though we have extreme mode on. It's supposed to kind of avoid that, but you can change refresh frequency, but out of the default it is not really corresponding to what we kind of expect from a high quality speed mode. It does seem that this has trouble with navigation more so than anything else. I honestly wasn't expecting that. This thing has been very slow the entire way through, but it played video flawlessly, and the audio was good. The audio wasn't amazing. What it was is it was very rich and it was rounded off. It actually had a lot of bass. It's not very loud, and that was at full crank. So if you're expecting this to be something that has a lot of kind of fill the room volume, that's not what you're going to get here, but it did sound good. Overall, as a multimedia device, it actually got the job done beyond my expectations. Last thing we want to touch on before we get out of here is manga. This does have the capability of sideloading in apps, as we've already told you, using Google Play Books, Google Play Manga, etc. So how does it look on this unit? Well, let's check it out. How does it perform? More often than not, we get asked, are there page turn animations? Is it scrambly? Is it scrunchy? Is it refreshy? The answer is yes. A lot of it depends on the app you're using, of course, but here comes the more sluggish experience that we've seen earlier on with ebooks and everything else. It's just rather slow. It honestly does seem to lag behind the rest of their lineup, but we have to check extreme mode because that is going to be the final tell. With a little bit of refresh frequency, let's set it at 4. Now it's really fast, now it's all good, but it doesn't look as good. Of course, we can go to normal mode after this, after it kind of catches up and we give it a second to actually deliver us an experience. Now, I'm not sure why it stops and loads because this is a sample, but we've already had it on our unit for quite some time, unless it's continuously accessing this sample from the Google Play server. But either way, it is completely readable, looks fine, it's just not the most fluid of experiences, I would say. It does work, it's just not fluid by any stretch of the word. SD card onboard Google Play standard and a good overall package makes this something to consider if you want a 6-inch e-reader. However, the back plastic is cheap, there's no major standout feature, and it's kind of slow, all things considered. In the end, we expect great things from this company because if anyone is adamant on pushing updates, it's Bigme. So we have full faith that they're going to rectify the shortcomings of this unit itself and give you the best possible e-reader they can make.